If you are a fan of the Para method, you might be wondering how to apply it into Capacities, given Para is based on a folder structure and Capacities does not have folders. Well, I'm going to show you one option for setting this up in Capacities in today's video. It's certainly not the only option available to you, but it's one that we at Team Capacities thinks makes a lot of sense, and we hope it's a really useful starting point for you to get to grips with using Para in Capacities. So let's get started. I'm in yesterday's daily note, and yesterday I created a few objects, and these are what we will be transforming into our Para system. We will begin by creating a project object type. I'm going to click on new type, and we're going to use the project object type template. This is just something that helps you get started with your projects that little bit faster. So I've opened up the project that is created just from using the template, and we can see that we have some properties down at the left hand side. Now, properties are quite a central part of Capacities. You don't have to use them at all, but what it helps you do is standardize what you need to know about every instance of your object type. So put differently, for this context, you have an array of projects, and per the Para method, you know that you want to know the same things about each of your projects. And the properties just give you a place to standardize where you put that information and then how you can find that information and work with it in order to manage your life in your digital realm confidently and efficiently. So we can see that there are already a lot of properties that would align with what Tiago Forte talks about in his Para method book, but there's a couple that we can add as well. So if you want to adjust any of the properties with any custom or templated object type, you'll find a button around here that says add property. So we're going to add a property, I'm going to add a text property, and I'm going to call it intended outcome, and this just helps you keep that clarity as you're working on your projects. Based on what Tiago Forte has written in the Para method book as well, I'm going to add a number property to denote the priority of each of your projects. Now at this point, my project object type has these properties applied to everything, meaning I can click on this project up here and create a new one. And as you can see, it's got the exact same properties applied. And that is really what I mean by standardizing your approach to having project notes, because you know, based off the settings you have configured, what properties you'll have for each object. Now that we've got a place to talk about our projects, let's use what we've already got in Capacities and apply them to certain projects, so we know that the content is there for a reason. So just as a reminder to see what we're working with, I've got my calendar here. Now what I can actually do is open my project up again and then shift click on this calendar link here, and that's going to open it in the right hand sidebar. And now I can work on my projects on the left while seeing what I've got on the right. So looking at all of this content here, I can see that it fits into two projects: creating Para in Capacities content and showing Anna around London. Now they're my two projects. The first thing I'm going to do is look at the content I've got and simply link whatever is relevant to each project. And the way that you do that is just by using the @ and searching for the names that we can see here, and the same function also works with the square brackets. So for London, I would want the historic London itinerary, I would want the image of the underground, I would want the article about the hotels, and I would want a reference to Anna. We'll do the same for the creating Para in Capacities content and link to the article draft and the book, and also to Anna. Now in this way, these project pages are like folders in the sense that it's showing you the relevant content for the project that you're working on. But one very key difference between Capacities and a folder-based structure is that these items that you can see now in the project but also in the calendar, they're not living anywhere in particular. So I haven't moved this draft into a project folder. All I've actually done is create a link to it, and we can see this linking relationship via the graph view as well. So here I've got a project called Creating Para in Capacities content, and I'm linking to whatever it's related to. Same thing about showing Anna around London. But Anna is connected to both of these projects. And if I had notes about Anna, perhaps where we write down all of the meetings that we have and what we know about each other, for example, it would be difficult to know where to put the note about Anna, because I would have to decide in a folder structure that one place that it can live. This is not a problem in Capacities. You don't have to think about it. The sole question you need to ask is, what is this object useful for? And you link to it there. So this article draft is useful for my project, so I've linked to it from this page. But there's still more that we can do to make this more useful. So, for example, there's a link to Anna's page here, but I don't feel like I need to see this in the body of my project object. So instead, what I can do is link to Anna in this collaborator section and remove the reference here. And I think it would actually be more useful to be able to edit the draft from this project than it is just to have a link. And any link in Capacities that lives in its own block like this has the option to be viewed in multiple ways. So you want to look for these three dots next to any link and explore this change view section. If I click embed and then open this, I can now edit that draft from this page. So this is another way that it's different to a folder. A folder is like a holding place that you launch things from. But in Capacities, these project objects become like a hub for you to work out of really intuitively, because you just connect what you need and you make those links look how you need them. So I can edit in here. I can quickly access the book from here in the right window, just like I did earlier with shift click. And I can still access information about Anna and Anna's page without having to see it in this main window where I'm working. We can also fill in the properties. So we started this last month, and this should end this week. So I can put it like that, and I can say it's #1 priority. Now, I haven't filled in the status yet because I want to show you a simple change that you can do to make it a little bit more useful long term. This property is letting you choose a tag, and as you can see, I can see lots of tags, but I know that only the status tags are going to be relevant to this property now and in the future. So if you open up your settings, this is your property setting, and you choose fixed set, you are going to be able to create a more specific drop-down menu. So if I choose in progress, and then go to the other project, and now look at the status tag for that, I'm only seeing the in progress tag rather than all of the ones we were seeing before. Now this fixed set, so the drop down selection, will fill out as you add things to it, but this is just a good way to keep things tidy from the get-go, just by changing that one setting in the property settings. So I filled in the properties for the second project as well, and just like before, I'm going to edit some of the link views in here so it's a little bit more useful. I think I'll turn everything into small cards, and if you go to the 6 dots to the left hand side of any block and click and drag, you can actually start to build out a layout of how you want your page to look. I quite like layouts like this, which you can make wider using the wide layout button up here, and then I've got all this room beneath to start planning out this project. Now, because I've put my priority in and because I know the status is on hold, I don't need to action this just yet, but I know that this page is here with the relevant content that I've already got in Capacities ready for me to pick up when I need. Now, imagine this with lots of projects. This view in itself becomes a really useful bird's eye view. You can choose how you want to view your projects. Are we choosing a list view, a wall view, a gallery view, or a table view? Do you want to add a filter? Do you want to add sorts? There's a lot that you can do here. If you're a pro user, you can even save some of these filtered and sorted selections and save those as projects. Where are my in progress projects? Where are my projects related to work? And you might be thinking at that point, well, how do I know if they're related to work? And that obviously is the job of areas, and that is what we will move on to next. Now, Team Capacities thinks the easiest way to deal with areas in Capacities is with a tag, because you can tag absolutely anything in Capacities and see everything tagged with it in really simple views. So if I click on the in progress tag, so far I've only got one thing, but you can see you've got the same filter, sorting and view options as you had with the project object type. So imagine how much more useful these tag views become when you've got so much. With one click you can see everything that's in progress, and the exact same idea applies to a tag for your area. You can see everything related to work, everything related to travel, everything related to health, all through a tag. So if you want to use a tag, you can click here, add property, multi-select, and it's already going to give you a list of tags. And again, we'll do a fixed set, because that means over time, the only thing that you will see when you click on this drop down are the area tags that you've got. So I'll say this is Capacities, and we'll go to our other project. You can click through to get to that project, or you can do Command P and search and click enter, and again we'll say it's Capacities. But just like the fact that Anna is related to both projects I've got going on, this project is actually related to multiple areas. It's connected to my Capacities job, but also to travel. And instead of having to worry about where to put folders and how to apply this, all I need to do is add another tag. So I can create the travel tag, add it to that drop down, and just with that one click, say that this project is related to both areas. I can keep my areas nicely put together in my tags object type. I can do Command Shift and click on all of the areas that I've got so far just 2, and click this collections button down here. If I type areas and click create areas, I now have a collection called that. And given areas are such an important part of Para, you might also want to pin this collection to your space for easy access. I've now got 3 things tagged with Capacities, which can show you how a tag works a little bit better. You can see I've got all of the things tagged with Capacities here. I can also see what related tags there are, and again I've got all of the same viewing, filtering and sorting options, which just give you real control over how you want to review your notes. You can also change the colour of your tags if you would like as well, add a description, search for more content, and also add more content directly to this tag as well. And really it's the features like this which make this a really sustainable and long-term solution, because it's easy to manage a lot of tagged content and it's easy to tag all your content. So you can just choose to add as many or as few tags that fit the context, and know that you can resurface what's necessary very easily, and as mentioned, pin what is super important to you for easy access in this left-hand sidebar. Now, I do want to mention that if you did want somewhere for you to write about a certain area in the same way that you are able to use the blocks here to write about your project, you would just want to create an area object type. To do that, click new type, create your own, give it a name and create the object type. And you don't have to do much here, because you can just give it the same name as one of your area tags, and you can actually embed that tag. So if I do @travel, I've technically created a link between this area and that travel object. But if I click on those 3 dots and click embed, now everything tagged with travel will show up here. And it is also going to update itself automatically. So if I do Command Shift click on everything related to London and click this edit tags button, click travel, and open my travel area, you can see that that tag has updated, therefore this view in the area object has updated. And if at some point you want to close that, and you can use the blocks beneath it to write that all out. So it's up to you if you want to use just tags or put these tags into an area object type, but hopefully that shows you that's one way. Now, we've talked about tags a lot, and we're not going to stop because resources and archives are also going to be dealt with tags. And the reason for this, again, is because you can tag absolutely any object with as many or as few tags as you would like. And because you've got the options to then review these tags in so many ways, again, it just makes them a very flexible and sustainable way of organizing your Capacities space. Now, you saw me add tags in bulk for the travel items here. We can do that exact same thing with a resource tag. So if I do Command Shift click on the para method, on the itinerary and that London hotel list, and click tags, I can search for a resource tag, which I don't have, and click create, and at once that has created that tag and applied it to each of those items. I also want to make sure I have easy access to that resource tag. So I'm going to open up my tag page, open up resource, and again, pin it. I can now click on that resource tag and I've got everything that I would like just there. And again, you can see from both of these examples here, the good thing about using tags is that you can very easily and quickly say exactly what something is useful for simply just by assigning more or less tags. So you're never worrying about something having to be copied into two places. All you're doing is saying, okay, what does this object make me think of? It makes me think of my travel area. If I think it's a resource I can use long term, and it's also related to a project. Again, we can open that graph view and we can see how it's connected to everything. And this is a much more intuitive way of working with information, again, long term, than a folder and file system might be, because it forces this really hierarchical structure on you, which might not actually represent how useful the information that you collect is. So we're nearly finished with the para method in Capacities. The final thing is the archives. Now, you've got kind of two options here, again with tags. If something is no longer useful to you, and we're already using tags quite a lot, or links, so I can see that this web link is attached to a project, an area, and it's a resource. If it is no longer attached to those things, you could simply remove the tag, and then it won't show up when you're looking at those tags. There we go. But if you want to actually fully archive something, I would suggest the easiest thing to do is give it an archive tag, because then you can see everything super quickly, again, by clicking on archive. If it's something you want to pin, you can, or if it's something you just want to navigate to with the search button, like this, or through your tags like this, it's completely up to you. So I hope that showed you one way that you might want to think about para in Capacities. We think that para in Capacities is certainly a different way of thinking about it, given there are no folders or files, but we really do think that it's an intuitive way of working with information in a way that honours how useful it really is for you, while still also staying true to what the para method teaches you. If you have any questions about this, of course, please let us know in the comments below, and also check out the written up version of this article, which will be in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.